How does the idea of, or if at all, minimalism and I guess conceptual art play into you?
I mean, it's funny. I think I'm actually more minimal in my perspective and point of view, more conceptual than sometimes my work dictates, which is why I'm kind of excited about the refraction paintings and this whole body of work, because it's kind of truer to how I think. All of my work comes from my own work. It may be inspired by something else, but I'm not using some other visual perspective to create my work, because in many cases, like we talked about, it comes from an unconscious stream of creation as opposed to a conscious thought of drawing something out. And even within the refraction series, they're based on my existing work. My clay studies, these have to do with existing abstractions that are in my work, whether it be in the photonastic layers of light that existed in my earliest photographs. So it's about isolating that negative and positive space and then bringing it to life three-dimensionally. This is latex. And it's kind of taking me back to, that point of view of suspension and gravity on a surface. It's just dealing with another medium that I haven't worked with. The vibration of the material based on,
So that's actually latex.
Yeah.
And then that's not latex covered canvas, that's just the straight up latex?
Straight up
And
latex.
that's painted, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's been treated.
Treated.
And so, it kind of takes you back to that whole movement of my earlier work too, where you're talking about movement and the surface of the material on another material, very much like the white on white, the monochrome painting. It's like taking a medium and seeing how another medium interacts with it. It's almost like a scientific experiment to see how two materials cohabitate with one another.
How did you do those works over there? I mean, were you cutting shapes out based on a flat form or the shadow created by a three-dimensional form?
Those are what I refer to as my spatial canvases, and those have to do with isolating the kinetic forms that existed in paintings, the tornado paintings and the hurricane paintings, and not really three-dimensionalizing. I guess they're two-dimensional in the sense that they're occupying a negative volume of space between the front and back stretcher. But also, what's interesting about those pieces is that based on the humidity, based on the environment in which they cohabitate, they either retreat or they sort of open up. So there's almost like this, most people ask me, like, what is photonastic? Is it a word you made up? Or, it's partially a word I made up, but it is, if you look under kinetic energy, it is an actual word. And it's the study of light formations, but within there's a nastic. Nastic refers to movement. This is breaking down a subfractal. So it's about going into, one of these pieces here. And, deciding that I want to sort of bring that section to life through another form, through another perspective and point of view.
So are you always collecting text whenever you...
I kind of stopped for a little while just because it was like, okay, some of it, and then people always worry, they're like, is it going to end up, and I'm like, well, your name won't be on it, and so don't worry about it. But people are worried about stuff like that just because, again, if you say something, is it what you mean, or are you playing with the idea of what diction is? We live in an age where everyone's texting and emailing and using other forms of communication to sort of express their point of view about things. And initially I always thought, like 2-3 years ago, because I wasn't an avid texter, and now of course everybody's into it, but I thought to myself, okay, are people actually more sincere when they're texting because they're not looking at someone face to face, and do people use that form of communication as a means of really expressing how they truly feel as opposed to face to face? And I think that that's probably the case, because I think that there's less risk involved when you're texting someone or emailing them as a form of communication and has to do with perception of a reality. It's like, the text next project really has to do with that exploration of perception of a reality. Like, what's the intended message based on, you know, what you're trying to say. So I've accumulated texts that I've received from people, emails that I've received from people. I've scoured straight sites, gay sites, you know, people wanting to meet people, people's intention behind their sexual sort of, you know, what they want. But, you know, are they living in this fantasy or is it a reality? You know, because I think a lot of people go online and they're like, yeah, this is what I want, but is that really what you want? Or are you just hiding behind the screen? As a source of sort of screening one source of information as it gets transferred to another source and then ultimately the final destination, you're not quite sure what's being said very much in your life when you're talking about, you know, like if I say one thing and you say, it's like when you were a little kid and you're like, okay, I said something, and then by the time it gets to the 20th person, you're like, the whole story is like completely the opposite of what it was intended to be. That process, that study of it is interesting to me because that's really what the work is about. Whether it's about the text or whether it's about the refraction or the kinetic paintings, you know, it has to do with breaking down that information to the point where it is unrecognizable. Like you're probably all sitting here like, oh, what the fuck is he talking about? You know, you know, so you know, it's. I don't know. I enjoy that process of exploration. I enjoy that process of having dialogue around things, even if it's in the most abstract way. You walk away with something. I mean, you could walk away being like, you know, I don't have a clue, or you could walk away saying, you know what, yeah, I understand one bit of what he was saying, or she said, or he said, whatever. But I think it's important to explore those relationships in day-to-day life because I think that if we can all communicate better, right? I think we could all live in a much sort of better, harmonious situation. My goal as an artist, and like, I don't know, maybe certain artists are different, but is not to always, you know, give everyone the answer. I hope that in life people want to sort of challenge themselves in a way that broadens their scope of information. I mean, otherwise, it's like, what's the point?